I stole 2 minutes from you. You ready? You ready to rock and roll? They should be coming over. I told them to come on over, so it may take a minute for them to start coming on over. You're on mute, by the way. Can you hear me? You're still on mute.
Okay. Let me start sharing again.
Awesome. We're just getting set up. Come on in. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Thank you for saying you can hear. Wonderful. Oh, Philly. Look at everybody coming in. NWI. What is NWI? What is that? Northwest Indiana? Cass, you'll have to tell us what that is. I think it's Northwest Indiana. I don't know. As I mentioned, we have, you don't want to miss a second, we have the phenomenal, the beautiful, the incredible, the lovely, the brilliant, the hardworking, the sophisticated. There's so many superlatives. I ran out of them. She's amazing. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. I'm going to be quiet so you guys can get all this information to her. And of course, as always, make sure you support these wonderful speakers. So connect with them on LinkedIn. We'll send the emails out with all their contact information. And if you need career help, don't call me. I don't do that. Call her. And so without further ado, take it away, Deanna. I'm going to be quiet now.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate that awesome introduction. Hello, ladies. I wish I could see you, but I'm excited that you're here. And I appreciate the opportunity for Erica, Lauren, and Tolu to give me to speak to you all today. And I'm going to start a little differently. And you may say that this slide is a little busy and it's a little fuzzy and it's on purpose. So hopefully you have a pen and paper ready or a stylus and a notebook or whatever you have to write some things down. So my question to you is, do you know what these numbers mean? 12 million, 2030, 80%, 50%, and 14 times. You can probably guess that 2030 is a year. And basically what these numbers represent is that 12 million people will be impacted by generative artificial intelligence by the year 2030. The way I think of that is I have a kid that's in the 5th grade and he graduates in 2031. So that's in just a few years that we'll see such an impact on the workforce from AI. And that means that 80% of people will have to transition from their occupation. Over half of those impacted jobs that will be impacted by generative AI will be held by women. And people in low-wage jobs are 14 times more likely to be displaced. So when we think about generative AI, and what we'll talk about today is empowering yourself to make an impact, and how can you make sure you upskill and reskill your tools so that you can still be competitive in 2030 and beyond. And even just this morning, there was a presentation on our local news about AI for children. So it's here. It's one of the fastest growing technological advances in history. So today, what we'll talk about, in addition to empowering yourself to make an impact, is that we'll define what coaching is, debunk some myths, have a Q&A, and then have a closing as well. And then I'll ask Tolu and Erica to help me with the Q&A because I can't see the chat. So who am I? I am Executive Leadership Coach Deanna Armstrong. And here's a little bit about me. I love Mickey Mouse. So you can see there, we're Disney wherever. Disneyland, Disney Cruise, Disney World, we are there. I also love concerts. So you can see that's Mary J. Blige when she did her gorgeous Hello Gorgeous concert. And my favorite vacation spot is anywhere where there is a real beach. Even though I appreciate man-made lakes, I love real beaches that are God-made. And then on the lower left-hand corner, that's one of my favorite pictures of my alma mater, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And I think it's one of the most beautiful campuses in the country. And then I have on the right-hand side in the middle, my daughter with her fun dog, who I hope does not bark during this presentation. So he's making his cameo. So if you hear noise, that's who it is. And on the bottom right-hand corner, that's a picture of my mom. Most of my work has been in oncology, and I'm sure a lot of people have had friends or family members impacted by cancer. My father passed away of lung cancer. So one of the reasons that I do what I do every day is because I want to make sure to help patients live better quality lives. And that's a little about me in a nutshell. As far as from a work perspective, I have over 20 years of experience. Yes, I started working when I was in my mother's womb. I have my MBA from the Cox School of Business at Southern Methodist University. I'm a big proponent of helping women, and I created a group, an affinity group for Black women in my organization called Help a Sister Up. And I've held different leadership roles across different industries. So let's jump into it. So, what is coaching versus counseling? What I really think about when I think about coaching is more future oriented, more action oriented versus a counseling, which is more like coping and getting an understanding from the past and the present. And coaching, again, is more looking at where you are today and where you want to go next in your professional journey. And yes, coaches are usually professionally trained and certified, whereas counselors, they are truly medically trained mental health professionals. So that gives you an idea because that's what people usually ask, like, what is a coach? So if you're looking to propel your career and take yourself to a higher level, you need to call me. So let's look at these myths. I'm sure you've heard somebody say, I know my parents would say, the way to be successful, Deanna, you work hard, you keep your head down, you stay out of trouble, and let your work speak for itself. Yeah, have you all ever heard that before? Just think about it. I know I've heard that a lot, and I've even had managers at work tell me the same thing. But in reality, that's just not true. Is it important to have strong performance? Absolutely. But it is a misconception that merit alone is the sole reason for someone getting promoted. And I'm sure you've asked yourself, how did he get promoted? Or how did she get promoted? Because I'm number one. I have this, that, and the other. But there are other things that go into a promotional opportunities. Also, the thing is that it says, let your work speak for itself. But guess what? Work does not speak, other people do. So you need to make sure that people know what you're doing. And so we need to rethink how we position ourselves for promotional opportunities and career success, especially in this age of artificial intelligence. So, again, this is back to your pen and paper. So, we'll talk about the pie strategy. And you may have heard of it. Some of you may have, some of you may have not. So if you think about it, that's your performance, your image, and your exposure. So where do you think performance falls in that? Is it the 30%? Is it 60%? Is it 10%? And how important is your image? And then how about exposure? And so I don't know if yours was right, but performance is only 10% of the pie. Image is the next 30%, and then exposure is 60%. And so let's take a deeper dive into performance. So when you think about it, performance is just basically the ticket to the game, right? Getting you to the door, getting you on the playing field is that starting point. It's essential that you perform well, and it's vital to your career progression, but it's not the only thing that's to help you get a promotion. It is the foundation of success and having that excellence in everything that you do. Then there's the image. How do you manage your image? When we talk about image, it's not only your verbal communication, but it's also your nonverbal communication. It's how you dress. For men, it's how their facial hair may play a role in it. It's teamwork. It's like, are you known for being a great collaborator? It's your attitude, the way you approach business. And a way to take a litmus test is look at those people in leadership positions ahead of you. How do how do they handle disagreements? How do they dress on casual Fridays? I remember early in my career, business casual was very popular, and my second line leader said she did not believe in business casual. So I heard that and I acquiesced to that because I wanted to make sure that I could continue to move up and have a good image in her eyes and in the eyes of the organization because she had been there longer, so she knew. And this again was a different culture. It was a very conservative culture. I worked for IBM back in the day, but a lot of things have changed. Back then, we even had to wear pantyhose, so it was a big deal to not wear pantyhose. I don't even think kids today know what pantyhose are. You don't see those as much anymore. We may know Spanx, but we don't know much about pantyhose. So let's take a self-reflection. So I ask you to take some time and really think about these questions and your answer to them when it relates to your image. So how well known are you at the company for which you work? Do people know your name? Thinking about your image, what are others' perceptions of you? Is it good? Like, is she a loner? Is she great to be around? We invite her out to places. Um, Also, what benefits could knowing what to work on have for your image and your career success? And then, what would be the benefit of having a plan to improve your image in your organization? And lastly, can you think of actions you might start to take to improve your self image or to play on your strengths as well? And I know there's a lot now, like we want to be our authentic selves at work. And absolutely, I believe in being my authentic self. When I wear braids, sometimes they're all blonde, sometimes I wear all types of different hairstyles, but also I make sure that I'm neat and I play the part of the culture of the organization in which I work. And another example is that I was in sales a lot of my career. And so when I would go see my customers, I would dress to their dress code. So if it's wearing scrubs, I wear scrubs. If it's wearing a business casual, is business casual. So there's your authentic self may need to adjust depending on the type of job you have, the role you have, and really looking at those people that are 2 to 3 levels above you to see what they're wearing. And last night I was thinking about authentic self, and I don't know if you saw that movie with Anne. I think it's Anne Hathaway, The Princess Diaries. When she first started off, they had her eyebrows like this big, and her hair was all crazy. And then how they showed how they refined her over time. So, is it important to be your authentic self and bring your full self to work? Sometimes, absolutely, but it depends to really take a true assessment of who you are and remember that a lot of what the images on in corporate America are based on what's called executive presence. And I know that's a buzzword that's been around for a long time, but if you think about executive presence, it's really based off of a man. And not only a man, probably a white man. So what does it mean to be have executive presence? There are three different components. One is gravitas. It's the behavior that you convey confidence. You have high emotional intelligence, and I think Ijeoma will talk about that, like self-awareness and emotional intelligence after me and her conversation with you guys. So definitely listen to that. It's your ability to stay calm in a crisis. And I'll honestly say that's one of my strong points that I can remain calm in a crisis most of the time. There's also communication. You have to be really intentional about your speaking skills, your presentation skills. You want to be that woman that walks in the room and you command the room without saying a word. And then it's also your appearance. It's the ability to convey through your attire and your physical attributes um, that you have good judgment, you're distinctive, you know how to play the game. Bottom line, executive presence is your ability to inspire confidence, to make people feel confident in you, trust you, and tap you on the shoulder for opportunities. And let's get to the biggest part of this, and that's exposure. And that's because visibility is very important. You have to make sure that the right people know who you are. So, how do you start to get more visibility? You can look at it from an internal perspective from your organization, as well as an external perspective from your community, and then also in the business community. And so, you want to have you been leading any events at work? Are you writing any blogs in your company newsletter? I know a lot of companies now have Yammer, which is like Facebook for the company. Are you putting information on there? Are you commenting on people's posts on there? To again, you want to keep your name in a positive light in front of people. And then another great opportunity is participating in company sponsored volunteer programs because most of the times executives are there that you may not have access to usually, and then that way they get to know you and your work ethic. Another way to look at your visibility is from an external perspective, joining organizations like BWISE and taking on a leadership role, even running for office. Like I have a friend that does so much stuff in the public eye. She's been on the board of education in her community. Just they do so many different things. And also it may be as simple as managing an event, managing a walk, doing something at your church. But the key is not only do you want to be visible to the right people, but you want to be visible in the right manner and at the right time. So I have another assessment for you to think about and reflect on when it comes to your exposure at your current organization. So, were any other projects assigned to you this year or in the last 6 to 12 months, were they visible to senior leadership? How regularly do you meet with others outside of your functional area? Are you just comfortable in your group? And I challenge you to go outside of that group and start breaking down silos. That's really helped me in my career. I was chief of staff for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it gave me an opportunity to have exposure to all types of, but all of the senior leaders, right? Because every senior leader for every business unit was on the council. And so I had that exposure to them, which led me to be tapped on the shoulder for so many different opportunities. And then also, what does your social network look like at work? Are you going out and having ice cream with the team? I've learned in the last two companies that I worked for, the two leaders of the business units would take the guys out to ice cream. And I just thought that was interesting. So I'm like, how do I get invited to this ice cream social? And these were grown men going to the ice cream shop, and they do it very consistently. So I think a lot of times we think about going to the bar and drinking. That may not be your scene, but even so, you can go to that bar, get you some mixed juice, and they may think you're drinking an alcoholic beverage just to make sure you're there when decisions are made and when people are being tapped on the shoulder for promotional opportunities. And if you're like me, believe it or not, I am an introvert. And so I put on my best actress self and get out there and make myself go and do these things. Why? Because I like nice things and I like to work and make a difference too. And then lastly, do you possess any informal leadership positions at work? This could be committee work. A lot of times companies are doing these culture surveys, and out of that, they develop work streams. Do you volunteer to be a part of those work streams? That gives you again access to different leaders outside of your management team that can see you and value the work that you do and understand what you bring to the table. A lot of companies have employee resource groups, so they call them business resource groups. They can be based on race, they are based on gender. Do you have key roles in those? Like I've done a lot of work with employee resource groups as well and have led employee resource groups for different organizations. And then back to volunteerism. That's huge. And especially if you're kind of feeling like, I don't know if I belong here, volunteerism also helps you to feel included in work. So I highly recommend that you volunteer with your organization. And a lot of companies even give you a couple of days a year off for free to do volunteer work. And so that summarizes what the pie is. That's your performance, your image, and your exposure. And remember that your performance is the foundation for your promotional opportunity, right? It's the admission into the game. And then your image is important, the way that people experience you and see you. And then your exposure, again, making sure you're getting out beyond your team and that people know who you are. So that when opportunities come up, they say, hey, I think Deanna will be great for this role. I think Lisa will be great for this role. I think Roxanne, she's really good at this. She should be in this role as well. So let's go to our second myth. That second myth is women do not support each other. And that's why I love the platform that Erica has created because it definitely dispels this myth. And the fact that you all here, I hope that you are the type that don't want to be the only one that looks like you in the room, but you want to bring other women along with you. So how can we do that? And that's really we as women, especially Black women, need to stick together and we can be powerful allies to one another. So let's amplify other women's voices and ideas and give them credit for it. Ask them, ask if you're invited to the table, ask if you could bring people along with you. I realized when I had a leadership role as chief of staff is that I knew all these leaders. And 9 times out of 10, if they were going on a site visit and they had a small group, a Black woman probably wasn't included on that trip when the CEO came or the head of the vaccines division. And so I decided to create a group called HASU, Help a Sister Up, within the organization for Black women. And I would invite these leaders to meet with these women. And one, so they can get a better understanding of Black women and the experience and how we experience working there. But two, so they can see the value that these powerful women brought to the table. And it was just, again, a way to open up that dialogue between senior leaders and Black women, and also to get the support and the sponsorship that these women needed that they weren't necessarily getting within the organization. And also, don't be afraid to talk to people about your experience. We have to share salary information. The great news now is states like California, they require you to put the salary bands on their job descriptions. So use that, leverage that information when you're going through whenever you get a job, whether there's a new job or a promotional opportunity, please remember to negotiate. My HR friends that say that women rarely negotiate. And that's unfortunate because we leave money on the table. And I'm sure you've seen this, the statistic that show that Black women make, what is it, like 63 cents for every dollar a white man makes. So there's a lot of room for salary negotiation. And also, if you've looked me up on LinkedIn, you've seen the post that I did that talks about when pay disparities began for Black women, at what age. And it begins at the age of 16. So, keeping this in mind, hopefully, when you get your next opportunity to negotiate your salary, you will actually do it. And last but not least, we have to, I ask that you champion for working moms as well. And so, again, don't be afraid to bring other people that look like you along with you. And some of us, I was tired of being the only one, so I always advocate to have some other people of color, and especially Black women and Black men alongside with me. And remember, to continue to let your light shine, because when your light shine, you're liberating other people and giving them hope to that they can ascend to your type of position as well. And then the third myth and last myth that I would like to address is that no one writes handwritten notes anymore. And it's actually kind of true, right? But there is an art in the art of handwritten notes, and handwritten notes can really be powerful tools to help you in your career journey and to really position you differently in the minds of hiring managers and leaders. And so, why should you care? One, handwritten notes keep your name in front of people. It speaks eloquently about you and your company. It creates a sense of community, and it makes an impact because there is something tangible. And also because very few people are doing it now. So it actually makes you stand out. So I highly recommend, thinking about that and why should you care? And I leverage handwritten notes quite a bit. And so some reasons to write: one, networking. I'm sure I have folks from our school as well as from work that send Christmas cards. I love that. It gives me an insight. A lot of times it has a picture of the family. It's great to see the kids as they get older, or even the ones that become empty nesters and they're jumping for joy on their card, like, yay, we're free. So definitely a networking opportunity. It could be strategic when you're intentional about to whom you're writing your notes and why. They're self-sufficient, they endure. One time I went to a friend's house and I looked on her refrigerator and it was a note that I had given her many years before. And that just touched my heart so much that she thought enough to put it on display, and she had it on display for years. And again, they're just another way to connect. And writing actually helps you to, it's like a mindfulness technique, like you're journaling or something like that. So how do you get started? Like, what you can write handwritten notes to spread love. Like, I have love notes I'll send to my kids. I travel a lot. And so I had created these notes here. I don't know if you can see it, but they just have mommy on them. So I leave them mommy cards. If I'm gone for um, at least 5 days, then I actually mail them a note, because who doesn't like to get something in the mail, right? With your name on it, addressed to you. There are notes for occasions like promotions, blessings, graduations. It's big graduation time. So this a great opportunity to write graduates a special note that they can cherish. And also it encourages it's an opportunity to encourage someone else, to motivate others as well. And then most executives actually use handwritten notes, and they use them as powerful tools. You can see that Doug Conant, the CEO of Campbell Soup, writes up to 20 handwritten notes a day. Or folks like the CEO of Home Depot wrote 25,000 notes in 7 years. I'm not saying you have to do that many, but again, even if it's just one note, one thank you Thursday a month, where you write a couple of notes to somebody, you'll see how far it'll get you. I didn't do it for manipulative purposes, but I remember one time my training department went above and beyond in rolling out a project that I had them working on, and I wrote them handwritten notes. They loved it. They were like, Deanna, we will do anything for you, because I had written them handwritten notes. Like, who knew? Um, then also, it's just a great executive tool. This is an example of a person that ended up working for Oprah Magazine. And he said the reason that he got his job is because he had sent them a thank you note. And he really believes that that was one of the key reasons that he was able to secure that role, because it differentiated him. And then again, it's just a powerful tool. It's a way to connect to your colleagues, with your customers. For those of you who may be in sales, I had an account that we called No C, and it used to be before it was Baylor Scott and White. It was Scott and White in the middle of Texas, Central Texas, and if you they did not like salespeople to come into their organization at all. But I had a new product that I felt would benefit the patients, and so I actually wrote a handwritten note to the head of the department for neurology. And guess what? She responded. And they met with our medical team and they started doing clinical trials with us. So, again, don't underestimate the power of the handwritten note. And it also, again, it's a motivational piece. It strengthens relationships. It's a networking tool. I had one friend who said that he had one of his employees that every time after they would work together, she would send him a note saying, "Thank you so much. I always enjoy working with you, and I always learn something new." And she would have mentioned like one thing. He said, "Do you know I will do anything for her?" Because that makes him feel good when she would send him those notes of appreciation again and again. So use this as a weapon in your arsenal that a lot of people, again, are underestimating. Yes, we do have text messages, which are really fast. And yes, we do have emails. But again, it differentiates you when you take the time to write a note. So, with that, I am going to turn it over to you guys for questions. So, are there any questions in the chat for me, Tolu or Erica?
Oh, there's so many. I gotta go way back. There's so many. I'll start with mine while I'm looking. Um, you've done so much in your career. What would you say was a game changer? Like you knew after you had done that or that experience occurred that I was like, yeah, I know there was a distinct uptick or bump in my exposure or what the company thought of me or the organization thought of me.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what have I done in my career that was a game changer? And to be honest, the thing that I did in my career that was a game changer, that I chose to no longer suffer in silence, because I am a rock star. I had joined my organization. Turns out I was the only person in that sales team that had launched and sold the competitor product before I joined the organization. I was 1000% to plan, not 100, not 200, not 500, but I was over 1000% to plan. And they had given, there were a lot of new promotional opportunities. And guess what? I didn't get any of them, which was crazy to me because, again, I'm like, I'm performing. What's going on? I was training everybody on the product. So I had the exposure kind of in the image. But what I did is that I was done. And so I sent an email to the head person in the United States. So not the president of the United States, but the president of that company. And I told them how I felt. And that was a game changer for me because I said, I'm tired of it being a Black woman in the South in corporate America being overlooked. It's the way that I phrased it. And that changed my career. That's one. And then the second one is they knew me because when we would have our big annual meetings, I was brand new and nobody in the room asked the question. And so I asked a question. And so those were the two things. So one, when I sent the email, they knew who I was because I was one of the only people and the first people to stand up in a, gosh, probably an auditorium of 2,000 people to ask a question. But again, I challenged them on that. And what I learned is that I had been suffering in silence for too long. Two, that I had to advocate for myself and show them the value that I brought to the table. And because of that, a key person knew, again, because I spoke up that time and then I shared my concerns with them, I started getting a lot of different opportunities because I'm like, look, this is who I am and this is what I can do. And did you know that this is all the work that I did? And so they appreciated that. And that just, again, it propelled my career to a different level because it gave me the exposure from a national perspective and across outside of my business unit. So I worked in oncology, but they gave me exposure to our corporate social responsibility team. They gave me exposure to our different roles in specialty cares, what it was called in the organization. And I would say that was the game changer when I was able to advocate for myself. And I do know that I do have a really good, the gift of writing well, and I have and I'm able to communicate effectively. And so I don't necessarily say that everybody should go and do those types of things, but if you have the skill set and the relationships, I think that helps. And then that also led into sponsorship. People talk a lot about mentorship. I appreciate mentors, but I need that sponsor to say my name when I'm not in the room. When that job opportunity comes up or that special assignment comes up with high visibility, I want them to say that Deanna can do that. And so I would say, so that's the long answer to that question. That was the game changer.
All right, we do have some more questions. Hopefully, you guys will type your questions in. We've got how would you apply this advice to someone like me who started a one person consulting business? That's a great question.
You are your brand. I actually was having issues yesterday with my computer, so I went to the Apple store. Like, I don't know how to do this software that they gave me. And when I was leaving, this guy stopped me in the parking lot. He's like, "You look amazing." He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Look, I am my brand. I am Armstrong Walker Coaching and Consulting, and I want to work with executives, so I have to look the part." So that's one. So the same things apply to you. The performance, right? So you have your your customers that can speak and vouch for you. Your image is important because you are representing your brand. You are the brand. So if you used to work for Nike and you gave them your all, definitely do it for yourself. And then it's the same thing goes with the exposure. And I would really truly leverage handwritten notes as my own business, as a business owner, and making sure when I go and network with people, if I have their business card and their address, sending them, "Hey, it was nice to meet you," along with connecting with them on LinkedIn and other things. But just that added touch of a handwritten note will take you over the top with them.
I'm always scrambling for my microphone. I want to add you, whether you're a business owner or not, you are your brand. So many of us don't step into that, certainly when we're younger, because I guess we're still trying to figure out what our brand is. But I'll just give you a little example. So those who know me know my favorite color is orange, but 99% of the time you see me, I will be wearing green. And I wear so much green and have so much green that people always ask me wherever I go at the airports, "Is green your favorite color?" And I get a chance to tell them, "No, this is the color of my company. This is my brand color." So I am always branding. People who know me, they see me in green. And so I would encourage you, certainly if you have your own business, how can you represent your brand? When you worked for these companies, you wore Nike shirts. When I worked for Chevron, I always had on a Chevron shirt every time I went out. So be thinking about that because you want folks to inquire, "Oh, what is it that you do?" So be thinking about that. So just wanted to add that little bit too.
Absolutely. And look, I have little kids and little boys just put on anything. I don't know about yours, but mine does. And sometimes I have to tell them, you can't go out of the house because you will not ruin my brand. Our family brand too. But I don't let he doesn't comb his hair any day of the week, but so gets to be a little boy sometimes. But he wanted to wear some short pants, but really, like seriously, like your brand is really important.
It is.
Really.
It is. We've got a question. Any advice for introverts when speaking in a room of senior management? You mentioned having to be an actor.
Yes, I channel I channel my inner Halle Berry. I really do when I have to go on board. But the so since we're all girls, can I share this, Erica? So do something that gives you confidence. Okay. So one, you take your superpower pose. So that's standing up. If that's standing up like you're Wonder Woman, Superwoman, Batman, Black Panther, just get before you walk in that room, give yourself a stature of strength, right? So you can physically go in that bathroom and do it. Like, yes, like if it's doing like this, you do like that. But also, like to wear I always buy myself some nice new fun underwear when I have a big presentation. This is probably TMI, but whatever it is that makes you feel confident, do that. It could be something that you wear underneath your clothes that nobody knows but you. Now, however many people are in here know what I do a lot of times when I need to give myself that extra confidence and again and channel my inner Halle Berry. And I really do. And I tell people that all the time. A lot of my younger cousins say they don't like people. Like, you don't like people, but even if you work from home, you still work with people. So we have to overcome those types of things. And it takes practice. It could be as simple as doing a presentation in front of friends and pretending that they are that that executive room. You can reach out to me. I'll be happy to work with you and be in the audience and help you to run through that. And the biggest thing that I make sure that give me confidence is that I know my stuff cold. I know that information. And a lot of you all are probably researchers. I do my research. I have the data to
Mm-hmm.
support me as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For those of you who are Beyonce fans, you may know that she has an alter ego called Sasha Fierce.
Mhm.
And I think she's an introvert. I think who she truly is an introvert, she would be just as happy probably sitting on the couch somewhere playing with her kids. But I believe that in order to get in front of these tens of thousands of folks, that Sasha Fierce allows her to have the confidence to do all the things that she does on stage. So whether it's Sasha Fierce or Halle Berry or whatever, I would encourage folks to find that whatever it is, it's mental. All of it is psychological and mental. That will allow you to not not worry. I used to dread public speaking. Now I wonder why. Well, why was I so, afraid of it? So that really comes with confidence, and that's the subject that we could talk about probably every quarter is confidence and how we all need to get more of it. Let's look at some questions. We have lots of comments saying, yes, I do that. That's great. I saw a comment down here. What ways can you document accomplishments from a past job when you don't have any that are obvious with numbers and values? That's a great question.
So I guess like in what ways can you document from a past job your successes? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so I know first of all you should always keep in my email box I call it Bravo or kudos. I have a mailbox, so whenever somebody says something about sends me an email about what I've done that they've appreciated, I put it in there, and also I put in projects that I've worked on. Why? Because it's when it comes time for your review, you have a record of it that way. And then what I also do before I leave an organization is I email myself those or I save those emails on to my cloud drive to make sure I have access to that and always keep a running tab of what you've done. And then you really look at it and try to figure out how can I relate this to what I'm doing now. One of the things, especially working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we would talk about is that people would say, oh, but they haven't done this before. We're looking for this, this, and this. Just because I haven't done that particular job does not mean I don't have the capabilities to do it. So you need to figure out how to translate what you've done into a capability. So, for example, they may say, well, you haven't done pure sales before. Like, really, we all do sales every day. The fact that I got a job, I had to sell myself to somebody. So if there is if you had an opportunity where you had an idea and you got your team to buy into it and to actually do it, that shows that you have the ability to influence. And that's what salespeople do. That's the capability, is being able to influence others to act. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Okay,
Perfect sense.
good.
I see some comments that they do that as well. And something that I did, I don't know where I got the idea to do it, and I wish I had continued to do it, was every Friday I wrote down all the things I had done. Just, maybe it was on a notebook so I could always keep up with all the different weeks. Just something. I met with this customer, wrote this report, da 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 da. And then at the end of the month, I would go through the ones that I thought were, meaningful or, contributing to, the success of, my account or whatever I was doing. And then each quarter, I would then cull from that each month list. So by the end of the year, when it was time to do my annual review, I had all that. I didn't have to try to remember what I had done because I had done it, incrementally. And so I would encourage folks, because nobody's going to toot your horn more than you are. And so we got to get better of letting folks know that we're doing incredible work too, even if, we don't get the credit for it. So.
Right, because remember, your work really doesn't speak for itself because it
Mhm.
can't talk. You have to be the voice.
Exactly. Exactly. What are the questions? We do have about 10 minutes left. Told
Oh,
you this was going to go by fast. What other questions do you all? I know you all have questions. What
oh,
are
and
the?
I have some action steps if they don't have
Oh,
questions.
good. Good, good, good. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll get to them. But yeah, let's talk about those action steps.
All right. Well, good. So I wanted to make sure I had left time to hear from you all. And so, first of all, just going back to the pie, right? The performance, the image, and the exposure. So really focusing on performance excellence, you have to be known. Your brand should be known for getting stuff done and doing it well, and doing it on time too. And if you have a budget, under budget or on budget is also great. So you need to seek opportunities for professional development. I have a question for you. Like, do you know about the leadership development programs within your organization?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know that they have them, that means that I'm sure 9 times out of 10, most major organizations have leadership development programs. And so I would ask that you start doing some investigating and find out what type of leadership development programs do they have. They have it for people that aspire to go into entry level management. They have people all the way up to people that aspire to be the CEO, and they invest in these folks. And a lot of times, what I've found is that Black women have been left out of these leadership development programs. And
Mm-hmm.
so now you actually have what's called differentiated development programs. And that means that these are programs that target like women, Blacks, Hispanics, and Latinos, as well as Asians. And they have specific training for them so that because there's a different way that we experience work as women. There's a different way that we experience work when you look at that intersectionality of being a Black and being a woman. So there are actually programs out there within your companies that may do it, but also there are external organizations that do these leadership development programs. So if they don't have one at your company, they probably have one at a university near you. And they may even have it at a university virtually across the country, across the world. So McKinsey, for example, McKinsey, the consulting company, they have differentiated development programs for Blacks, Asians, and Latinos. And that's where you're in a cohort of your peers that look like you. You have Harvard that has leadership development programs for women. Here in Dallas, we have Southern Methodist University. They have a leadership development program for Latinas. So again, that's a way to make sure that you're getting the professional development you need. But again, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So most companies have leadership development programs, and I cannot stress enough that you find out if your company has it, and if they do, then you make sure you talk to your leadership team about it, put it in your individual development plan, and then work that plan and make sure you're in that next cohort and let them invest in you because they're investing in you. And what happens is people in those programs are usually put on an accelerated career journey. Okay. So that's, so again, those are ways to continue to hone your skills, not only in the job that you do every day, but also those soft skills that you need as a senior leader.
And I would add, I would encourage folks to network outside of their silo, outside of their group. You you may get in a department, a group where folks just aren't supportive of people in general, but especially people who are different from them. And if you go to them and ask them about this, they're either going to tell you, "Oh, I don't know anything about it," or maybe they'll poo-poo it. "Oh, you don't need it. Don't worry about it. Don't need it." So don't stop just with the folks who you know and know you well. Make sure you go, and you should be doing that anyway. Your connection should be matrix throughout that organization. Too few of us bother to reach out to, if you're in engineering, reach out to the sales folks. Not that you necessarily need them to do the work that you're paid to do, but just building your network.
Well, it also, you had to get you a better understanding of the organization.
Right.
How many of you listen to the quarterly earnings calls? That's
Cricket,
that's
crickets.
right. You that's a must. Especially first of all, if you're going to these booths today and you get an interview with one of these companies, please make sure you go to their investor relations page and listen to their earnings call. Listen to the full year for 2023, and then listen to the most current quarterly call for whenever that interview occurs. One, you'll get to understanding what their priorities are. You'll get to understand, am I interviewing for a role in a business unit that's going away? Because the CEO didn't even talk about it in the earnings call. And that'll also help you ask better, more intentional questions. But we have to not be afraid of financial literacy. One of the
Mhm.
things a friend of mine, because again, I did a lot of work, especially for women of color. What we found out is that when men are mentored, men are taught the business.
Mhm.
When women are mentored, they're really just taught to navigate the business.
Mhm.
You have
Mhm.
to be able to navigate the business, but you also need to understand the business. And if you're not a big numbers fan, that's okay. I'm not either, but that's a way that I challenge myself to be able to develop those skills. But
Mhm.
also, one of the things I meant to talk about too is that it's important for you to have your own personal career board of directors. So those people that across industries, across functional areas, across gender, across race, on that board of directors that you can go to, and some of them fill in the gaps of some of your things that you're working on. So like my friend is a CFO. That's who I need to go to her, to talk about the business acumen from a numbers perspective. If I don't have a good understanding of operations, then I go to my folks that are in operational type of roles. If it's my medical R&D people, I have folks again on my board of directors at different tenures in their career. So it could be colleagues and people above and below you. So I highly recommend that as well. And so it's again important for you to build a positive image and to make sure that you're seen as a subject matter expert. And don't be afraid to seek feedback. You can do a formal 360 feedback. I took a class recently and it had me ask people, "Why are you my friend?" And
Mm.
it was a quick turnaround. So she said it's okay to send people a text. It freaked people out. They're like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you asking me that?" Right? Like, why are you asking me? Why are we friends? And I decided, I said, I'm going to ask a man, I'm going to ask a woman, I asked people from different nationalities. I purposely chose people from different backgrounds. And it was amazing. My one friend said she remembered the day she met me when we were in third grade. Who
Oh.
so that's another way again to seek feedback. It can be simple or it can be a formal, like the 360-degree feedback on that. So again, building that positive image. And again, seeking exposure opportunities. Remember, you want to have the right visibility to the right people at the right time. And again, looking for ways to showcase your strengths. Yeah, I really believe in focusing on my strengths. Yes, I try my best. I'm working on my weaknesses for sure, but I'm going to accentuate the positives as well,
Mhm,
especially if you're going to be in front of senior leaders. Don't do something that you know you have a gap in and
mhm,
it's highly
mhm,
visible. Yes, you do take those risks, but you may not want to lead that project. You may be want to co-lead it with somebody and have somebody that knows that whatever that strength that you're trying to build is
mhm,
build up
mhm.
on that. So again, and it matters. So it's industry events, conferences. Get outside of your comfort zone. And
I love it.
and I think a lot of times when people talk about mentor, they say, "Well, there's nobody that looks like me," and that's okay because what I found is that most of us are the only ones in our business units on our teams that look like us. And the people
Mhm,
that have helped me have been white men. White men
mhm,
have been very good to me, and I
mhm,
appreciate that. And I, in turn, I help all people because that's
mhm.
who I am.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. I love it. I'm looking at, we still have about 5 more minutes, but I
Okay.
want to make sure we have some questions because for some folks, this is the only opportunity they have to ask some really pressing questions. So one I saw, and this one is near and dear to my heart, was asking, how do you get people to sponsor you or something to that effect? And, we talk all the time about mentors are great, but sponsors are really key. What happened? Why am I getting that feedback?
I think you pushed off mute.
Oh, hold on. Let me do it again. That's weird. Okay, can you guys hear me?
It's still double. I think it went away.
There you go. Hold on. I know how to get rid of it.
Okay.
That was my other device. Okay. Um, that's probably more intimidating than it needs to be, and I think you address this, seek opportunities for exposure. Um, I would say, first of all, although sponsors choose you, you cannot choose a sponsor technically, but you could position yourself around folks that you would think would make good sponsors of you. So if someone that you admire or you think is on the fast track, is working on something in particular, see if you can schedule time to talk to them, schedule a meeting. If you're at an event with them, strike up a conversation. A lot of times the fear is on both sides, right? We're afraid to approach leaders, and they're also afraid to approach diverse folks because they don't really know what to say. So I would encourage you to do that. Take a chance, do your research and see who's, in your organization that you admire. I think that's important. Who is doing the kind of work that you want to do someday, even if that is quite a ways away. And just start getting in front of them because, like I said, they have to choose you. That's not something you could audition for. But I encourage you to do that. That's just part of getting to know folks, so you're matrixed in your organization. So that's that first one. Here's another one I want to touch on, and happy to get your thoughts too, Deanna, in the 5 minutes we have about left. Is we have someone who said, what do you do when you're in a situation where you're the only Black employee in an organization? How do you handle instances of racial discrimination, especially given your accent? So 20 years ago, I probably would have given a different answer. And I would say, there's ignorant people, prejudiced people everywhere. So your company is not going to be immune to that, or your organization is not going to be immune to that. Your best bet is to get, in a department or area away from them. But now I feel like it's so prevalent. We had folks who were just hiding who they really were until this last previous administration gave folks the okay to be racist everywhere, anywhere. And so now I would say you've got to really evaluate, do you feel safe in your organization? Is there someone, I mean, because that you should that racial should not go undocumented, right? Whether they do anything or not, it needs to be documented. So is there anyone at all in your organization that you feel safe enough sharing this with, or who could advocate on your behalf? And if the answer to that is no, it's time for you to go. I hate to be like the movie Get Out, but I just can't recommend folks stay in an organization where they are going to be, at a minimum, racially discriminated against. But I'd be afraid that you do something to me. I'd be afraid to leave my food in your presence. I'd be afraid to be in a car with you. So I would say do your homework and figure out, if there's anyone worth connecting to at that organization. If you can't find a single person, you have to be like in the Bible, you shake the dust off your sandals and keep moving. We just can't continue to put ourselves in unsafe spaces anymore. You have any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree with that, right? For if you don't feel safe, then it's not the place for you. But I also would say don't be afraid to speak up to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because I'm not sure if you're like you're and it's middle management is not the answer necessarily, but you may have a senior leader that you can go to and talk to. But the thing that we have to remember is that we have more in common than we have than not, and that's what we had to remind people of, and start to really develop relationships with with the person, and know who I am as I'm a mom. I'm Deanna, like my mother's is sick, this person is that. So really trying to connect on that human level, and if that doesn't work, then and again, like Erica said, if you're not in a good situation, then do definitely look for something else. But let somebody know if your company has an ombudsman's office where you can go and talk to them about it, because it does need to be documented. And you do have, I'm sure we used to take training all the time on anti-harassment and those type of policies. So some smaller companies may not have that, but if you're with an organization that does, I would follow that route, but also work on developing those relationships and figuring out, you know, um, how can we connect in other ways, and hopefully that person doesn't have any impact on you and in your day-to-day career life. But yeah, but that's why we're probably here today for the career fair too, so we can start
Absolutely.
in the career fair. But I was just showing ways for you all to stay in contact with me. So I do have some special exploratory coaching sessions for the folks here at BWISE. You can scan that QR code, and I think Erica will send it out in a follow-up email. And then also, I just created my LinkedIn profile for Armstrong Walker Coaching and Consulting. So I
Mhm.
will have a randomized drawing for the people that go and follow us. And the prizes will be 3 people can win free stationery. And then and then 2 people will win 3 free coaching sessions. So feel free to scan that, go to LinkedIn and follow me. And then there's a form you can fill out too if you want to know more about coaching. And then I am owner of Providence Invitations and Gifts. So if I have inspired you to get your own personalized stationery, which I love our stationery, and this is like mine here. It says Deanna. It's a folded note. And what I like about ours is that you could print on the front and the back. And I always put my telephone number on there because that's the one thing I
Mhm.
passed since cell phones were invented. My emails
Yep,
may change from time to time,
exactly.
and I put a little quote on there. Like it just depends. So I put different things. Like this one has gratitude. It's the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and return kindness. So you can put little different things on the back, and I have my name and my number on there. So just again, a different way to leverage your stationery. And again, this is just a summary of ways to work. And you can use the code BWISE and get 20% off. But I think right now there's a great sale going on for graduation type of stuff. So I think it's about 30% off. So some of the notes may actually be 30% off because they're considered
Ooh,
graduation. And then,
I'm going right over there.
all right, awesome. And then recommended reading. Erica did mention Confidence. I love the book Quick Confidence by Selena Resvani. I think it's really an easy read, a quick read to again give you that confidence that you need to walk into that room and command the room. And that just reminded me of the question about when I go and meet with executives. Now, to be honest, my father was an executive, so he had his own steel manufacturing company. So I was always around businessmen, white businessmen, because my father was like the only black guy in town doing that. So I had that in my background. But the thing that I know, just like my father was just a human being and a dad, these guys are human beings, and these women are human beings too. So don't be afraid to approach people. And last but not least, my old CEO said a difference between when a man walks up to him and a woman of color, particularly a black woman. He says, a man, he could say, hey, what do you want to do? He'd be like, I want your job. This is what I've done, yada, yada, yada. He said, a black woman, when she would approach him, would talk about how he needed to advocate for other black women, or how he needed to help, or we advocate for each other. Or people of color, we're like, we're not, we want to talk about us. He said that is important, but he said, let's switch the narrative. Talk about what you bring to the table, what you want, and how they can help you, and then follow it up with, and once you help me, I want to help a sister up with me.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's my challenge to us as women. We definitely, that's right, that's who we are. We're nurturers. We look out for each other, but just remember to have your elevator speech ready in a genuine way. Start that conversation, and don't be afraid to ask for what you want. When I talked to him, I told him, I said, I want to create a job in health equity. That's what I want for me. So, but trust me, you're not alone in doing this. Men do it all the time, just like men negotiate for their salaries.
Brava. Amazing. Amazing. And so to thank Deanna for all this wisdom she's given us, I want every single one on here to go and send her a connection request and connect with her company. We're going to send the video recording out, but we have to support those who support us. So I hope that all of you will, like I said, connect with her. I want her inbox to be running over. I want her to be like, I can't keep up with all these connection requests. So please go and support her business. Go get yourself some stationery. Oh, someone sent me a note saying how great BWISE has been for them on some lovely stationery. I just don't know what I would do. I probably would just jump for joy. So again, thank you, Deanna. I can't thank you enough for the wisdom that you have imparted. As always, I knew this would be a great session. Thank you all for attending. Now, we're not finished yet, so come on and join us. We're going to head on over to Tapping Into Your Self-Awareness for Career Success with Ijeoma, oh, Lord help me, Ofoha. Just go on over to that booth, and she's probably already started. So we'll see you over there.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank you, ladies.